Good evening, friends. Welcome to the return of my Gothic party. Today we're going to discuss Edgar Allan Poe's The Pit and the Pendulum. Within Goodreads popularity, it's number 4. Just like The Telltale Heart, I actually was surprised where The Pit and the Pendulum started off. The first time I ever heard the premise of The Pit and the Pendulum was from my 4th grade teacher. She was giving us a bunch of different kinds of scary stories. She'd mentioned like Little Shop of Horrors, and then she jumped into saying that like some classic Edgar Allan Poe, like The Pit and the Pendulum, was very spooky. I can remember being captivated by the concept of The Pit and the Pendulum, because she was saying it was about a man who was tied down and there was a swinging scythe above him that was slowly lowering down and would eventually slice him in half. So I always kind of thought that this was like one of the lesser of Poe's stories and that it made for a good visual presentation, but it wasn't necessarily as atmospheric as others. Revisiting now, I can say this so far has been one of my favorites. At the point I'm recording this, I've only read 4 or 5 of the stories, but Pit and the Pendulum is probably going to go up there as 2 or 3 in my personal list. Spoilers for The Pit and the Pendulum. Again, I think those works are more atmospheric than journey-based, so I don't think knowing what's going to happen ahead of time actually impacts the story over so much. And these stories are really well known, so it's hard not to know. But if you're someone who doesn't like spoilers, stop right now, read The Pit and the Pendulum. It's very short, and come back. Just like The Telltale Heart, there's a lot set up in The Pit and the Pendulum. We don't start in the heart of the action. We start at the end of a trial where someone is being judged guilty of crimes we are not told about and is being sentenced to death. When they wake up in the dark, they're surprised that they haven't been killed right away because they know one of the gallows hangings that happens monthly happen the day of their trial, and usually you go to death immediately. So right away we have like some oddity going on. Part of me was hoping, even though I know how this story goes, that this was some kind of delay in his trial, that they were exploring more avenues for justice for him, or that they thought there was an appeal going to happen and that's why he wasn't murdered immediately. I personally remember the swinging pendulum coming towards him being pretty much the main thing of the story. But I actually think the pendulum is maybe one of the least terrifying parts of this story. I found this story really pretty scary, actually. First he's in the dark, he's trying to get the lay of the land, he's walking around the room, can't figure out the shape of it. Eventually he decides to walk from one end to the other to see if he can get an idea of the width, and he almost falls into this huge pit. The fact that his captors have intentionally placed him in a place where he might kill himself accidentally, to me was really chilling. And the idea of being watched and someone torturing you for their own enjoyment. They're not trying to get information from him, they're not trying to get him to confess, he's already been found guilty. So any kind of torture at this point in time is purely for the watcher/captor's enjoyment. The other thing that struck me about The Pit and the Pendulum is it reminded me a lot of internet creepypasta stories I read. I listen to a lot of these on YouTube. It's kind of like my thing. And these stories were like, it starts with something to be a little bit off, that might even be a hopeful sign, and then a series of increasingly more alarming things happen. It's a pretty standard formula that's very successful, at least to me, in the creepypasta genre. So I was getting into this story, and then, he wakes up and he's strapped down, and suddenly his room is lit up. There's all these detailed drawings on the wall. The pendulum situation is actually like a figure of death with the scythe swinging back and forth. It was something I didn't remember from reading it the first time, and I thought was such a striking detail. I don't even know why remakes of The Pit and Pendulum don't have this figure being lowered with the scythe. Like, that's the part that's super creepy. I just don't know why you wouldn't have the two together. It's so much creepier that way. And he escapes. And then I totally forgot that the walls of the room were actually made out of some sort of metal, and that they were heating up and slowly closing in on him, forcing him towards either being burnt to death on the hot metal or jumping into the pit to his death. And because I forgot that detail, it made me wonder if I really remembered the ending that accurately. So I had this moment of high tension, concern for our protagonist. We really haven't found out what his crime is, and it's kind of been implied that he's just been captured by enemies at war. So if that's the case, then isn't, like, this is a war criminal and we don't know which side of the war is doing the right thing. So he could actually be a hero just being tortured by bad guys at this time. I was a little unsure what he was going to do. It was kind of like trying to urge him on almost into the pit, like hoping there was water at the bottom of the pit and that the water was deep enough and maybe he would survive the fall if he jumped straight down. Minimally, I felt like he had a better chance of like trying to climb down into the pit. All of these were like things I was rooting for him, hoping that he'd figure out. And then before he had to make that final decision, the walls stopped closing in on him and his fellows come in and they have said that like their side of the war, if we recaptured this prison, he is free. So overall, I love this. I love the Pit and the Pendulum. I like the story. I like the clothes. I thought the different series of traps, tricks, tortures, whatever you want to call them, was a lot of fun. And I see a lot of this kind of inspiration in the modern creepypastas. Slow escalation and just these mean people doing mean things for no real reason. Have you guys read the Pit and the Pendulum? Have you seen an adaptation of it? Let me know in those comments down below. And also, if you have a good creepypasta I should check out, give me a link to that or a narrator I should listen to here on YouTube. A link to that in the comments down below would be great too. I'm always looking for more like that. If you're looking for something vaguely horror-based, I have a horror playlist here. It's small but growing, and I hope you guys take a look and give me some more suggestions on other horror stories I can check out. Otherwise, there's more coming in this goth party, and if you want to be the first to know when more comes out, please subscribe. It really helps me and the channel out, and it lets me know that you're enjoying the content. Thank you guys, and as always, keep reading. Bye!